Bloop. I don't know where Ernest is.
My bad, y'all.
There's no countdown today.
Hey, I was waiting on the 30-second countdown. I want to see that before.
Hey, we boost right in, bro.
This is
We
just
off to on.
I ain't got no music. I don't know, man. It's up, y'all. So welcome.
We in, we out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is the election special. As you can see, it's time to vote in Detroit.
Time to vote.
Man.
Vote, man. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's me.
I keep sneaking away from the screen because I was about to do something I need to not be doing. All right, y'all. Man, let's go ahead and do introductions, get things set up here because it's going to be a really interesting show. There is no script, but we will be talking about everything on the ballot in the city of Detroit. I might talk a little bit about some suburban city called Southfield. I don't know, but we got to talk about this because y'all, I think they about to mess it up big time, man. What you think, Jay Rocky?
Hey, Jay Rocky, coming your resident East Side political commentator, man. What's going on? We're about to do this real quick on the Freedman side, man. We're gonna cover these elections, bro. As far as what I think, man, man, Doug is gonna get back in there again, bro.
I know. Man, quick. All right. Ernest, what's cracking, bro?
What's going on, y'all? Now here in Lansing, so I'm just in the background. I'm gonna definitely bring up what's going on out here. I'm trying to see exactly what the ballot questions are. I think it was just really millage, but I'll be pulling that up too.
That's what's up. Go State. Go Green. Go Green. Go White.
Hey,
yeah.
Okay, we're not doing that. All right?
Hey, they walking real good in Lansing right now.
Burning everything up, flipping everybody cars over, acting totally like assholes. And what do you?
I ain't even catch the game, but some doctor, he was just like, "Hey, did you see the game? We walked away with the win." I'm like, "This motherfucker happy as hell."
Hey, they stole a win, bro.
Oh, here we go.
Whenever you had every review go the way of the home team, bro, what do that mean?
Hey,
we're gonna leave it at that.
Hey,
so I'm conspiracy brother, so what do I know? I'm conspiracy brother, what do I know? I'm conspiracy brother, what do I know? This is about politics, not sports. We're gonna try to leave it at that.
All right, so we got to talk about how I think the city is going to lose. I think this is not going to go well. I'm sorry, y'all. I remember back to the last mayoral election when New Era Detroit made a post on their Facebook, was like, on their Twitter, on their Instagram, was like, this next 4 years are on you. And it's about to be another one of these deals, man. So I don't know. We got to look at this ballot, though. We got to look at this ballot.
Let's look at it.
Let me see here.
Hey, I don't know if y'all ever watch it's a Black Manosphere Obsidian Black channel.
Yeah.
But every time he show any content, bro, he say fair use.
Fair use.
Just say that because every time even if showing pictures, bro. Fair use.
Yes,
fair use.
That is true. Fair use.
Fair use.
Yeah.
Let me share. I'm gonna share something here.
Creators do that as well.
Tab.
Sitting and be on that Republican stuff though. That's I can't deal with.
We ain't for that one.
Right.
We're not here for that one. Let me see if this comes.
Fair use.
All right. Fair use.
Hey, y'all see this?
Yes, sir. We can see it, man. Detroit election.
Oh my gosh!
Everything you need to know.
Now look,
polls tomorrow.
For some reason, they text my phone for my wife for this election stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, we know how. I'm gonna read the text. It's important to this conversation.
Gotcha.
So it says, "Hi, my wife's name. I'm Richard with Black Voters Matter. Black voters made the difference in 2020, and we can do it again in Michigan. Are you voting with us on November 2nd?" And I was going to reply, "What difference did Black voters make?" And what but I'm like, I'm not even gonna waste my time, bro.
We ain't get nothing for all.
That's what I'm saying. Who was the difference made for?
What did we get from it? Illegal immigrants are going to be getting $450,000 a piece for being separated at the border. That's what we got. Thank you. We'll be talking about that.
Right.
But I digress. Go ahead, Darvell. We're gonna break this down.
Man, so I'll talk about this for a hot second, y'all. So let's look at this here. When, where to vote in the Detroit election. First of all, the polls will be open all day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., right? That's going to be on November 2nd, tomorrow. Absentee ballots can be turned in tomorrow. You just got to make sure you get them to the city clerk. What is that? Is that Miss Winfrey? Got to get it to her.
Miss Winfrey. Yes, yeah. Miss Cook the Books Winfrey. Yeah, the main office is right there on Grand River. I'm sorry, Grand Boulevard. Off of between Woodward and the Lodge, so that's where the main office is. That's where I've taken my absentee ballot to, in the past. So in fact, the previous general election, I literally turned in my ballot to Janice Winfrey. You
told us about that.
Yeah, she so happened to be there.
Did she give it? Did she take it with a smile?
No, not really.
Now, I just want an opinion of you brothers, because you can vote without an ID here. You got to sign an affidavit. But what's y'all? I mean, everybody kind of knows my opinion about the whole voter ID issue. I feel like it's a non-issue. I feel like if you need an ID to get on an airplane, or if you need an ID to drive, I don't see why you don't need an ID to vote if voting is important. I mean, what do y'all think? Is that unreasonable to ask that people have identification to vote? Is that racist to ask?
I mean, how it can be applied and how it's being applied to the letter. So it can be. It's always been kind of historically kind of used as a way to throw out votes, especially if it's targeted at certain demographics that may or may not have quote unquote the right ID, so to speak. It could get real wild. I'm not saying you shouldn't have one, but just like in our situation, you should be allowed to, if you don't have one, you should be able to allowed to get a provisional ballot. In certain states, if your name doesn't match everything, or people getting preemptively taken off of the rolls. Because that happened in 2000, both in Texas and in Florida, that swayed that vote towards Bush. I think it just depends on the spirit of it, and how it's being implemented, what forms it are, because they'll get down to okay, well, certain states, it needs to be this particular type of ID. Like, for instance, if you had a student ID that wasn't good enough, you don't have a driver, it has to be a driver's license, some form of government ID. And then if that's the case, if in certain states they made it to whereas that if you don't have those forms of ID, then you don't even get a provisional ballot, or people can challenge it, so on and so. I mean, it's clear that the idea that quote unquote voting fraud, this because that's what it's supposed to be protecting from, voting fraud. There's right. They go back to, they had to drudge up this stuff way back into the 60s and in the big mafia days. We got dead people voting, but for the most part, I mean, all studies have been done, and I don't have those right before me because I didn't know I was going to we were going to be getting on this particular portion of it. But it's really that's a non-issue. So it's directly. So now you're saying it's no doubt about it that it's an issue to try to tamper down the vote. But you know what? Our people do it to ourselves anyway. We gonna, what I'm saying? So it's just like, the more obstacles I can put in front of you, it's no different from like when you get a corporation, they'll say, okay, you could, hey, we're advertise a particular item being 10% off, but no, you're gonna have to turn this in for a rebate, blah, 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 and do all this extra stuff. And they know that the average person be like, oh, man, I ain't doing all of that. Have to redeem this and redeem that, and so on and so forth. And then pay a full price. So it's that. The more obstacles you put in front of it, the more likely is the person going to be like, oh, man, screw it. You know what I'm saying? For those who, who aren't like real strong-willed about it. And that's
I'll just say that, it's definitely like in this day and age, as far as the photo ID, like what percentage are we looking at when we're looking at the Black community? that actually doesn't have a photo ID or a state license. And so,
State license could be a lot.
yeah, state license, but like a state ID, because everybody ain't got a car, but state ID, that's something you need for employment in general. So I would hope most of our people
Well,
have
not really.
that.
You don't need a state ID for employment.
Well, it's usually like you can scan that or your social.
You can have a social security card.
Yeah.
You can have a birth certificate, right? That's all you need for employment. So, I mean, there are people, there's a lot of people who don't have driver's license because of child support, because of, tickets, so on and so forth, things of that nature. Right. Like state ID should be pretty easy to get anyway, but anyways, but let's go into the, we got off topic.
One
more
thing
off topic, but let's talk about our election.
One thing. Now, not last election, but 4 years ago, didn't we pass when we passed the redistricting committee? Didn't we pass that law where when you turn 18, you were automatically registered to vote in Michigan? You passed that, right?
I
think it was 16. We passed
that's been on the like automatic.
At 16, I believe we passed that.
I think so. I'm not for sure, man. I can't talk about it though because I don't know. But this is what you need to vote here in this election right now. So you're gonna cover that, Darvell, or you want me to read it?
Yeah. So, of course, here's the thing, though. You can register to vote at the clerk's office with whatever you got, but you can do it that day. That's what's so. Listen, that is so powerful. I don't think people understand. States like Tennessee, if you don't register 30 days out, all of a sudden it's a burden on them to allow you to register any sooner than that.
Right.
It makes absolutely no sense. Because at the end of the day, you're just voting, you're just counting ballots. And all you have to do is certify that the person is eligible to vote, which you do that pretty quickly. The need 30 days out from the election is asinine, and it's just a barrier like we talked about. And so when we look at this one provision here on this article by the Detroit Free Press, fair use, the deadline to register to vote being 8 p.m. on election day is how it should be across the nation. There's absolutely no need to put any barriers in the way of a person who is eligible to vote, even if they haven't registered until election day. Now, to do that, however, you just need to be a resident at the time you register. And you know what that does here from a personal note, I can tell you, if you move into the state of Michigan 2 days before election, you can vote in that election. Whereas if you go to a state like Tennessee, if you move into the state within 30 days of the election and you're trying to vote, no care. They don't care. Even if you just got here. You just got to be a U.S. citizen, 18 years of age to vote, and not currently serving a jail or prison sentence. It doesn't say, that's interesting. Well, let me shut up. Anyway, and bring an ID or look at this and bring one of these. Yeah. You don't even have to have an ID. You can bring a utility bill or a bank statement. You can bring a paycheck. And then you don't even need to have that, do you? Like, that's what we're talking about in terms of signing.
Yeah. Yeah. We're so because quote unquote, this is a semi-liberal state.
Yeah, that's semi-liberal to me.
Semi-liberal, fake liberal state. That those measures, I guess the Democrats won on that, and the Republicans didn't really fight them that hard up here. But you go, like you said, down in Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Florida, no, they're not. I'm saying all those Confederate states, they're not having that at all. And it is what it is.
And I mean, to kind of hit on that point that Darvell is talking about, it does not make sense with the technology that we have to have the need for ID and simultaneously a requirement for 30-day registration. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a way to cross-reference that. Our IDs have barcodes on the back when you scan it to buy Sudafed or when you buy alcohol. Right. Exactly. You can't scan that to verify that this is a legitimate state ID to have me verify my identity and then go vote. But again, it is a barrier, and I don't want it to be misrepresented that I don't believe that ID laws or registration laws can be a barrier to voting. It's just that, I think sometimes white liberals tend to overemphasize the ways in which things can be racist without realizing that they're also kind of propagating a certain type of racism in their own way.
They're problematic. We know. Now, here's the meat and potatoes, right? The Detroit mayoral race, right? So here's the deal. Mayor Mike Duggan and Detroit attorney Anthony Adams are facing off for the city's top seat.
Yep.
Now, Mr. D, well, no, somebody, no, that was somebody. Somebody said the other day, they said DJ Trump. And I was like, who is DJ Trump? Somebody said that the other day. It didn't
DJ
hit me that it was saying Donald J. Trump.
DJ Trump on the ones and twos.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
man.
ones and twos mixing it up in 2024. I guarantee he's gonna be
He gonna be in the background unplugging cords. So Duggan, who's seeking a third term as Detroit's mayor, swept the primary by a significant margin. The mayor aims to build on the city's efforts to reduce blight, pour more resources into home repairs and jobs, and beautify the city. Adams, who has been highly critical of Duggan, hopes to unseat the incumbent with his platform of stabilizing neighborhoods, reducing crime, and providing robust social services in schools and job training programs. So that's how he's coming at it. Anthony's like, listen, we need to worry about these neighborhoods. You over here he's saying we're pouring money into home repairs. I mean, has the home repair shit really been working?
No, man. Not that I'm aware of. I'm a homeowner here in this city, and I haven't really heard of any. I can't say. I have heard of some programs, but they definitely aren't really advertised. That's the word I was trying to think. And here's my thing: you're going to focus on that on your third administration. You've had two administrations prior to him. He seemed like Duggan was he's more making sure that these out of Detroit contractors, out of city contractors and business people, they're making sure the environment is good for them to get these contracts and loans versus the actual people, as well as his administration, set in. We've covered these things in our previous show, so we won't go too deep into it. But the over-assessment, the over-tax assessment that occurred, during his watch, it started in previous administration's watch, but it, continued in his watch, and to certain analysis that has been done by professionals and academics, it continues under his watch, where some of the lowest property values, the lowest homes as far as in property values are being still way over assessed. Therefore, it's more likely that somebody like myself is getting over assessed in taxes, right? Than somebody, let's say, who lives in Indian Village or Sherwood Forest or Palmer Woods, Palmer Park, where those homes have a much significant higher home value and market value. So those who don't know, taxes here are assessed at 50% of the value, the state equalized value of homes. This is all throughout the state of Michigan. Okay, at 50%. So according, I should have. I hate to talk without citing things, but nonetheless, like I said, there's been academic studies that were done to show that homes, like for instance, my home, which is my state equalized value is like maybe $5,000. So my home is like only valued at around 10,000 or so. But homes like that on the lower range are still being way more overassessed than the market value. Speaking to the blight in our homes, you know what I mean, the bad repairs and so on and so forth, right? They're being overassessed at a higher market value than what they actually really were if someone really to look at it. And therefore, we're actually paying more money than, let's say, somebody who's has a much wealthier home, percentage, right? Has a more wealthier home. There's more actually in the middle, and at the higher are much more actually assessed at the market value than the lower homes. And this is how we're paying a higher percentage of our homes' values towards taxes than those at the richer area. And think about it; those are Mike Duggan's constituents. Those are the people who are going to more than likely, the 30,000 plus that voted him into in this primary that voted for him, and more likely than not will vote him into office. All those people over there, and because I'm calling out names, because you know what I mean, I'm calling out neighborhood names at least. The Grandmont and Rosedale neighborhoods on the west side. The Indian Village, the West Village, the villages in the east side. You know what I'm saying? Probably East English Village. These areas, these neighborhoods, Sherwood Forest, Palmer Park. These neighborhoods that still have that have significant home values. Very nice. A lot of city services are all tailored towards these particular neighborhoods in the city. These are the ones when I go around. I also part-time drive for Uber Eats and DoorDash. When I'm delivering, I see Mike Duggan's. Those are the
those neighborhoods have the signs.
All the signs, right? Not in my neighborhood, not on the east side where I'm at between 75 to Quinder, 7 Mile and 8 Mile. You don't see any Mike Duggan signs over here. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, the people, who live in these areas of the city, the most blighted, the most crime-ridden, right? Our people aren't voting at the same capacity to outmatch those richer neighborhoods that are getting all the services and all the improvements and bike lanes and and things of that nature to kind of make it look better than what it actually is. We're not voting at that. That's why we're doing this show. Is voting is not. Not voting isn't cool. Not voting isn't smart. Not voting isn't like this, because like a lot of people feel like why vote? You know what I mean? That the system is bad. Man, on the local level, it's more palatable and more real than maybe say the national level, right? Way more real. The city's 85% black, even though we've lost about 100,000 in population, we still can control our politics. But anyways, let's cover these guys, man.
Let me touch on this though. One thing I do want to talk about is these two gentlemen here that I have on the screen, right? And we're just using Detroit Free Press as fodder to kind of ignite the discussion, but not the gold source for the truth. So don't get us too twisted about having this on the screen. It's just something that's convenient to pull up. But when we look at this, I'm just going to read an excerpt here. They're talking about the incumbent, which is Mike Duggan. The incumbent helped steer the city out of municipal bankruptcy, oversaw its economic revival, raised millions in campaign donations from corporations and other big donors, and secured the top vote in his summer's primary. Let me look at this. Let me scroll back up. Make sure we understand. Is this a damn opinion column right now?
Yeah, it must be, man. Because how the hell you must be? Because how did he steer it out? He became the mayor in 2013, right? Under that write-in fake vote. Anyway,
yeah. Well, no. I mean, click the reporter's name. You can get a bio idea. But I mean, this is the situation with a city like Detroit, where for the previous almost 40 years, you had black men in charge. And you finally get a white person in charge, and then he's believed to be more amiable to business, or to white interests, or to white business interests in a way that Coleman Young wasn't, in a way at least that they weren't perceived to be, that Dennis Archer wasn't, and that Kwame wasn't, and even that Dave Bing was, but because he was still a black face, that he had always the potential not to be. And so when you get a guy like Duggan in, then the large amounts of reinvestment come in, and it makes it seem like all you just needed was a white man in charge, and then Detroit is back on track. And so everybody kind of works in synchronization, high synchronization. You revitalize all this stuff all at once, downtown in the finance district and up really the Woodward corridor area, and it looks like, wow, Detroit is back, right? Drive through the neighborhoods, and it couldn't be further from the truth. The average Detroit resident is so disenfranchised, so removed from city politics, from their local representatives, that I mean, I'm going to be honest. They're not watching this show. They're not watching this show. No, the average person watching this show is not the average Detroiter, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, but that speaks to the larger issue of trying to engage the Detroit resident, because they've been so beaten down by the reality of the conditions they live in and live under. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty hard. But this is the reporter here. And she apparently is a City Hall reporter for Detroit Free Press. Yeah, okay, ma'am. Yeah, the reporter.
Let's keep on reading it, man. Let's what they're talking about.
So anyway,
it out of it was
his challenger.
Yeah.
What's that? Okay. His challenger, who we're talking about now, we're talking about Adams. Adams is a veteran of city government and argues more needs to be done to protect the city's most vulnerable in its far-flung neighborhoods, while he also criticized the current mayor for failing to address many of Detroit's deep-seated problems. Now, from the beginning, almost any effort to unseat Mike Duggan would have been an uphill fight. Unfortunately, that may be somewhat true. Duggan's standing as the reigning mayor has allowed him to rebuff calls to debate. Then we just have a whole thing about him not showing up to debates and largely replace in-person campaigning with nearly daily mayor news conferences touting the city's achievements, from development projects to home repair programs, from battling COVID-19 to aiding homeowners with flood damage. Yeah, okay. Now
so he's using a public dole. He's using public dime. This is the problem with this, and we, you know, and maybe people may not see behind the scenes. So he's using mayoral. You know, this is the functions of the mayor to tell people what's going on, right? But in a campaign where it's kind of unethical, and maybe it may not be illegal, but where it's unethical is because you're using what they call the bully pulpit in order to do so. He's using his function as a incumbent to be able to really further his campaign message without it, quote unquote, having to spend the money to do so in a separate venue, right? Or in a separate sense. And I mean, politicians do this all the time. He's not the first, won't be the last. Okay. But it just is kind of disingenuous in that sense, right? And instead of actually, you know, and so he's playing we're gonna do the time of possession type of thing, and we're gonna make an analogy to football, right? I'm gonna do the time of possession. I'm gonna run the clock out, take the knee at the end of the game. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna give you the opportunity to, you know, to go face to face, and battle me. I'm just going to not, you know, as far as him being, you know, for as far as there being, there was never a mayoral debate of any type, you know, either on TV or, you know, where he was at it. There were some mayoral debates that were done, you know, maybe via web and but through the other candidates that were running, right? Because there were several candidates definitely in the primary that were running for mayor. None of that has been done. He's basically playing it safe, you know, or better yet, like what I think of from in a wartime strategy, when you're the enemy, where let's say you have a outpowered force. So you're you have an outpowered force like the Viet Cong did to the United States, or like the Taliban to the United States. Hey, I'm not going to challenge you on your battlefield. You know, I'm wherever you're the strongest at, or I could possibly lose. I'm not going to challenge you there. I'm gonna avoid that confrontation. You know what I'm saying? And I'll do it elsewhere and other ways. So even though he's the number one, but he's basically, you know, I'm not going to give a chance for me to possibly slip in the polls, possibly have my opponent, you know, outshow and maybe show my faults, because that's what happened in the debate. You'll be able to, you have Anthony Adams would have been able to, or any challenger would be able to, you know, critique his so-called, achievements, right? You know, in a balance, you know, in a battleground, i.e. being the podium or being a debate stage. But by him not, you know, choosing to obscure from that and using COVID as the reason why, now, you know, as the excuse, he could just talk about himself, give all of his, you know, he doesn't have a contrast or an alternate narrative to challenge him.
He said he wasn't going to debate because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the excuse. That's why City Hall is still shut down. Ramon talks about that a lot.
Yep.
and that's one of the examples we saw last election, the presidential election.
You know what? Go ahead.
Well, that's what they were saying. Joe Biden should do to Donald Trump, and that's what essentially what Nancy Pelosi did to her challenger Shahid Buttar in California. They didn't challenge. They didn't accept a challenge from their opponents for a debate. And I mean, as voters, it is our right to see people running for elected office debate each other and lay their positions out for us to judge which we prefer. And so when they take these types of positions, they're not illegal, but they're not illegal because they write the laws, you know.
Yeah,
And so, go ahead.
I was gonna say it almost is like we need to have a policy where you do have to debate at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think that's something we got to argue for in the Black agenda. Right. You know what I'm saying? Just in future politics. So,
like, yeah, and in certain situations, at least once, no matter how small the challenger is. So even if it can be considered an arbitrary or insignificant percentage of support, you need to have at least one debate so that even people who are running unopposed face some type of scrutiny. Even if it's one of us to just say, hey, I'm running so you don't run unopposed, so that we can yell at you on stage to tell you why your ideas are bad, you know, or there's no accountability.
Or better yet, if they're running unopposed, right, then what's supposed to happen is the fourth or fifth estate supposed to be the media, supposed to be the way this country was designed, a free and open media was supposed to be the challenge to government, but because of corporate interest and so on and so forth, you know, it's so, you know, you get all, you know, it's more of a and due to their access, because if they're too tough on a candidate or an administration, they lose access and favor. But and so therefore, they're not as tough and asking challenging questions. You know, they're almost like softball. Like, you know, even this, you know, those that piece earlier, that paragraph earlier, or a few sentences earlier, talking about how he guided the administration through bankruptcy. What do you mean? He was already within a year of him getting into office. Right. Well, he was elected in 2013. The city was in bankruptcy prior to him even being elected. He came into a city that was already in bank. It was all the rules and everything were already set up. It was already being guided and administrated through the federal government, you know, and Kevin Orr and all his people, right, were dictating the terms of what he could and couldn't do. How do you mean guide?
That was I was going to say that. You know, she's got to make sure that Duggan allows her to still come in and talk to her to give her exclusive stories or exclusive coverage. And so she writes these puff pieces, and that's the fourth estate. You know, and when you see that on the national level, where you see Joe Biden's unfavorable numbers are higher. His total, what is it? His total, I was just listening today to a show. I think his total unfavorables are higher than his hard unfavorables are higher than his favorable coverage, which is supposed to be some ridiculous thing, because usually people aren't that against the candidate as they are supportive of a candidate. Like, extremely unfavorable is higher than his supportive numbers. And so, but the media doesn't even report on that. Biden has some of the highest neutral coverage of any president ever. Not only is his negative coverage low, his favorable coverage is high, but his neutral coverage is highest. So they don't give any critical appraisal of what he is doing, of how he's handling these situations as it pertains to inflation, the supply chain, as it pertains to whatever the American people are feeling in their pockets and in their minds today.
Well, all right. So check this one out. This is really interesting. I was reading the next statement. So just to your point, Stedman, this piece does seem a bit biased. She goes ahead to state that Anthony Adams is a significant underdog walking into Tuesday's contest, according to the primary election results and political observers. Who the fuck is this? I'm sorry, I'm using too much profound. I'm sorry. This that's just,
I like
anyway.
that. I like that spiciness.
Political observers, what, you, ma'am? Anyway, in the primary, the former deputy mayor under Kwame Kilpatrick did not even win 10% of the vote. His campaign has yet to file his last two financial statements detailing his fundraising and spending. These may be true statements, but what is your point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Where's Duggan getting his money from? Why not talk about that? You know
exactly. So Adams said in an interview that he has to rely more on grassroots community outreach to get his message out. Quoting Adams, he says, I'm out pretty much all day, every day. We're doing door to door in the rain. We're up phone baking. We're text messaging. We've got TV up. We got radio up. My schedule is exceptionally busy because I need to touch base with the people out there. You know,
and me and Stedman can both contest to that. Two events that we went to that were separate, that weren't even related to each other, truthfully. I mean, besides that, was trying to reach out to Detroit residents. One was the tax assessment group that was dealing. They were showcasing a home that was given a previous person who lost his family home due to the overtax assessment. He had gotten a new home, and Anthony Adams was there. And then there was another meeting, just basically people who were running for election that was held by the pressure movement. Trying to get candidates out. That was at the Samaritan Center. Anthony Adams was there. So I've seen him, in many different other events and around and about. I wish the brother the best, and I, hopefully, you never. I think it's too late for October surprises because we're in November now. But but I hope that there's.
Hey, Gerard, was the event at the Samaritan Center? Was that the Juneteenth event fam went to?
No.
Okay, he was there too.
He was there. So
I met him. Me and Tramell and those folks met him. He basically is grassroots, like he's saying.
Right. He has been. I mean, because he doesn't have. I mean, he's going against a juggernaut. As far as campaign money is going, because most of Duggan's campaign money is coming from the well-to-do and the political elite and the money interest in this area, and like I said, and then him just refusing to even debate the man, because there he might possibly get outshined and Ed might get egg on his face. He's like, why do that when I don't have to? And that just, to me, is just a real coward way. The public should be able to hear. And the fact that the media, both these major newspapers, Free Press, the News, and the Detroit News didn't. I never saw anything calling for a mayoral debate. The media from the locals didn't call for it or was pressuring, and beating the drums for a mayoral debate. It's just really sad, man. It's just, like I said, the fourth estate is in this country. That's why people don't read newspapers anymore. No one trusts them anymore. They don't. Yeah, exactly. That's why they go to YouTube and go to the people, because trust is eroded.
And I mean, even when you look at the way this reporter presented this article, he's only 10% of the vote. It amounts to campaigning for the incumbent mayor.
Yeah.
And one thing you got to remember is Duggan is a former federal prosecutor. His father was a federal judge, so he's got long connections not only in county politics, city politics, right, with McNamara and the Kilpatricks.
Yeah.
But then federal politics, and then the corporate space, because he was in charge of the right. So I mean, he's got a long history of different connections, organizations, from his education, and so I mean, he's got favors to call in. This is one of the reasons why Kwame hasn't endorsed a candidate, because he's got an allegiance to both men running. And so, I mean, you know,
Wow.
We
You
talked
can't
about
trust-
this
Yeah.
in our elections coverages. I think last year we had brought this up,
Yeah.
like, hey, will Kwame's
Getting out.
They're both from the same school, right?
everyone's connected because Anthony Adams was connected to him, and the Kilpatricks are connected to the McNamara's, and McDuggan is connected to the McNamara's and to the Kilpatricks through the McNamara administration, right? That's where all of the skullduggery was learned and done.
Jeez.
Yeah, the
Oh,
McNamara
boy.
organization, or it was McNamara. They was when he died. The terminal is named the Delta Terminal at DTW. Is they have a special terminal that's just for Delta. Is named the McNamara after him. There was going to be a FBI raid. I think we covered this in some of our stuff.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
because mismanagement of I would assume county funds in the building of that airport, and I'm not for sure. I know Duggan was involved or not involved or whatever the case may be on the outside, but he definitely was part of that administration as well as the Kilpatricks. I think
And as far
Kilpatrick, Kwame Kilpatrick's father was McNamara's chief of staff in his later years. Yeah, so all this
and
stuff.
and as far as what you were saying about McNamara dying, lucky for him he died because it was like a pretty open and shut case as far as the corruption from the FBI probe. So luckily for him he died.
I think we're going to. I think are we going to pivot into Janice Winfrey and.
Yeah, it's basically we'll use this to pivot into her. Basically, the last statement I pull from this piece is that Detroit City Clerk Janice Winfrey, in an election briefing this week, said she expects only 50,000 absentee ballots and even less in-person votes at 25,000 for Tuesday's election. Detroit has definitely more than 50,000 registered voters. But Winfrey says she predicts the November election will mirror the August primary, with only about 15 to 20% of registered voters actually showing up. And that's low for municipal general election. A municipal primary may be okay, but for a general election, that's pretty low. But Miss Winfrey, is she to be trusted? I don't know. You guys
No.
maybe not like her.
No. They from my understanding, they have taken up a lot of the absentee ballot collection boxes because and because she anticipates that there's not going to be a big turnout, so a lot of those are going away. I could specifically just speak to myself personally. I signed up to become an absentee voter permanently at one of our events that we had during MLK, the MLK March. That was 2019. I signed up, and I'm registered in the state on the state rolls in the state databases as a permanent absentee ballot voter.
Me too.
So that means that I'm supposed to receive every freaking absentee ballot. Every general, all of this. And I didn't receive something about the absentee. So the clerk sent me something. So the primary occurred right on August, was that 3rd or whatever that was,
11th or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I didn't get a question. I got a questionnaire from the clerk's office stating, "Do I want an absentee ballot after the election?" Now, of course, they're going to blame it on the post office, right? But it's after the election, man. It's just
when was it postmarked?
Oh, I can't even remember, but it was after
That's
the primary election. And then I think also basically it was saying, hey, do you want an absentee ballot for the primary and the general? And it was already, again, the primary already had occurred. At this point in time, I don't trust her administration at all, and because at all in it, I shouldn't even have to do this because I've already at the state level have designated myself to get absentee ballots. That's for state, local, federal elections. I'm supposed to get an absentee ballot irregardless.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, I think it's better just to go into the precinct and vote than to rely on that on waiting for an absentee ballot to come or may not come. Even if I do get one, I'm going to go and go down to the main office and turn it in at the main office, not any other satellite pickup locations. Those have been issues with that as well, about ballots coming up missing or not getting from the satellite locations to the main location. So just for me, yeah, I'm not. This lady's been in this position for 16 years, and there's been just a lot of history of mishaps and missteps. That a 15 to 16-year veteran of this job shouldn't be having. You shouldn't be having to have the Secretary of State talking about we need to step in and oversee the counting and the training of the poll workers, and because it's there's discrepancies happening in previous elections, and we don't know that just is beyond
discrepancies.
I'll say I haven't received my absentee ballot either, in the same boat as you, Gerard. So
Yeah.
That's definitely interesting. But my precinct only like 3 minutes away, so
Yeah, miles around the
going
corner.
into the location, just gonna get it in quick, 15 minutes, and just like you're supposed to do if you can't get the absentee. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's just interesting that it didn't come, because it really shows you like what are they doing at the local level, as far as prioritizing that voters get this information so that they can vote, versus they making all of these complaints about what's going on 2024. You know what I'm saying? At the
Right.
nationals, yeah. So
right, that's the scene that honestly that's the only time where anyone seems to care about it is when it's a presidential election for the most part, because they need all of the voters. That it's also souls to the polls and
Oh my gosh, yeah, I hate that shit.
all of that, right? Because they got to get the ground game out. But see, is you control better. They take the Republican strategy, right? Hey, less is more when it because you could control the politics and keep your seats in power when you have when you discourage the voter turnout, you discourage new people coming into the process. That same goal still goes into place when it comes to local politics at the local and state level. They're able to, they disenfranchise. Like I said, there's no real communication. Like, for instance, Janice Winfrey, she's also the city clerk. Her job and duty is to be reporting to us what's going down at the clerk's office. I'm sorry, not clerk's office, but at the city council. She's supposed to represent, no one has any idea what's happening down there, especially since, the mayor's office has made sure that all public buildings are closed. You know what I mean? This is, because the person that oversees that is in his administration. The Department of Health, I guess, or she is a female, from my understanding. She oversees that and has declared that it's not safe enough to go.
So she did that.
Yeah.
What? I know who that is. I know her, and I'm surprised to hear that could possibly be in play. That there's a political leverage that's being utilized to enact a health emergency state on the city buildings so that they can lock them down. That's kind of crazy. Does it surprise me? I guess nothing will surprise me coming out of Detroit right now, especially once you get inside the machine. All that you can get, I guess, all that you are getting, you don't want to lose it. I guess you play ball, right? However, unfortunately, Miss Winfrey has been playing ball for a long time. And as you said, Gerard, you made a very good point. If she's been in play for so long, how are we messing basic shit up today? Now, the thing is that she is running for office again. Have you seen any ads for this woman? Has she been campaigning?
No, because again, her record is so bad over the many times that she's done. Like she screwed up 2012, 2016. There was discrepancies. You know what I mean? This last one, 2020, I guess ran better, but obviously you had the issue down at Coble Hall, but that was primarily coming from the right, try to say that, hey, these black people don't know what they're doing. But hey, you add fodder to that when you have somebody like her in a position that has screwed up previous elections or what have you. And really, again, the clerk's position, the clerk's duties is to be informing the citizens of what elections are coming up, who's on the ballot, so on and so forth. And we don't have any voter education that's even happening, right? Because again, the whole goal is, hey, cover up, hide, you know what I'm saying? Because if you start looking at their records, it's going to be like, oh, that dirt's going to start coming out, and then maybe discourage people from voting for her.
So I'm wondering what's going to happen. So Detroit City Clerk Janice Winfrey aims to retain her seat as she navigates running the November 2nd election. The clerk is responsible for administering elections and providing city council records such as meeting minutes, ordinances, resolutions, and other proceedings. Her challenger, Denzel McCampbell, currently on leave as communications director for Representative Rashida Tlaib, has called for a transformation of voter outreach in Detroit. And that's all they got on him. So this is already biased. Like, oh, she's responsible for all of these things. Well, I mean, the clerk is in general. That should be a separate damn ass paragraph, man, but whatever. All right. You want to talk about some proposals, sirs?
Sure.
What was that? Someone.
We've covered previously in our videos. You can check them out. Maybe we'll provide some links later on to our videos that talks about proposal R, proposal E. I'm sorry, proposal R and S. Proposal E is a new one that we kind of just made aware of. So to just recap real quick, proposal R is seeking to create a task force on reparations to harms of historical racism against black Detroiters. And proposal S seeks to change part of the charter that currently states that no amendment, no voter initiative can allocate city funds towards that initiative. With proposal S is going to do is basically change that to say you can't to now you can. Though municipal experts warned that it could hinder city spending through future ballot initiatives. It allows voters to push for specific initiatives, though municipal experts warned that it could hinder budget planning and draw in special interest to fund personal projects. And that's so we gave our opinions on R and S. We're collectively we are voting no for. We are advising our people to vote no on R and S. Do that R doesn't have any doesn't really in this language doesn't go over the mechanism of how that commission and its members or commissioners will be selected. It just stated a voter approved or voter approved commissioners or what have you. It didn't give the mechanism. It doesn't even talk about how many are going to be on the commission. It's very, very vague, and that's our main objective to it. Not that we're not against reparations. We're not against the study of reparations on the local level. We just don't feel like money. At the end of the day, the main thing was that money shouldn't be spent. Tax money shouldn't be spent towards reparations. That should be done at the federal level. But again, because of the vagueness of proposal R and its write-up, we say no. Proposal S is being marketed as a way to fund proposals R. Any measures that come out of proposal R, so it's being kind of tagged together as like a combo. But actually, proposal S implications is far-reaching. That very last sentence is one of the issues that we thought that could be in play. It warned that it can hinder budget planning and more specifically, draw in special interest to fund personal projects. And we've seen the power of money can have in advertising, and where proposal N was passed, where basically we approved I think it was $350 million bond to take down blight. So in turn, we are now subsidizing. The residents are subsidizing for the national failures that happened in 2008 with the subprime crisis, mortgage crisis, which led to a lot of people being foreclosed on their homes, as well as over a tax assessment, people being foreclosed on their homes, moved out of their homes, these homes are abandoned, they go into disarray to the point to where now a lot of these homes are just beyond repair, need to be broken down, and now the residents are having to fix something that happened at a national level, state, national level, and we have to repair. So, but they marketed it as being, hey, this is for the neighborhoods. They called it Proposal N for neighborhoods, right? So that's what opened up us to a lot of that type of thing happening. Now, Proposal E. Stedman or anyone you guys want to talk about this one?
Yeah. So Proposal E would not legalize, but it would decriminalize in the city of Detroit. They call them on the ballot, I believe, entheogenics, which is therapeutic use of hallucinogenic plants like psilocybin mushrooms, peyote, DMT, substances like that for adult use, adult recreational or therapeutic use. And so we've decided to reserve our specific positions on this and keep that kind of personal because, that should be your own. How you feel about the use of therapeutics or psychedelics or drugs that are not legal at the state or federal level should be your own decision. But essentially, that is the proposal that is on the ballot. It's always good to consider, though, in this, the way that drug laws are applied, and even in trying to, in instances where we think it's best to legalize drugs or decriminalize drugs at the state or local level, understand the implications of decriminalized locally and still completely illegal federally, and the ways in which that affects a majority blue-collar Black workforce in a way differently than a white workforce that has a mix of white collar and a blue collar job. So
yeah, and also just like think of who's asking for this.
Yeah, I was thinking this is kind of random.
Sure. Yeah, even with that axe, I'll say that just looking at it from a reparations lens, if only they would have had these type of proposals when the crack epidemic and heroin epidemics were occurring in major cities across the U.S. De-emphasize the law enforcement element of it. But hey,
yeah. and I think one of the big reasons why this is on the ballot here is because it passed in Ann Arbor. I think in like the spring they had a vote on it or something, and it passed. And at the state level or the local level, marijuana has been decriminalized in Ann Arbor since like the 70s or earlier. So it's a fairly liberal city. This is kind of a continuation of that same thing, but the makeup of Ann Arbor as a city is probably 99% white. At the very least, it's 99% white if you're not a college student. So, I mean, you look at the demographics of that city, but then that does speak to the changing demographics of the city of Detroit and who is advocating for it. They did a little mock-up on the news about it. And, I mean, there were I think it was one Black woman who was talking about it. But primarily there were white people who were advocating for the legalization. And that's not to say that anybody on this panel is necessarily against decriminalization. But, I mean, we need to understand the totality of what that means and the implications and the benefits and the costs for the Black community. Because, this is what our show is about, the Black community in the city of Detroit, specifically.
The freedom community.
Right.
All right. So, I mean, listen, I got a picture of the anything you guys want to say about city council people?
I think we should cover it, man. At least who's running for what, who's opposed, who's unopposed.
So there's a lot of stuff going on over here. Let me make sure this looks right because this looks like some bullshit. already. Oh no, it's all right. It looked okay. I was about to say that and left some folks off. So let me read this piece here. Detroit City Council, a slew of new candidates running for city council, would like to provide fresh representation amid an FBI investigation in the city. While a few office holders hope to retain their positions despite headlines about alleged corruption.
Alleged.
They have to say alleged. They have to say alleged corruption because none of the investigations have gotten have bore out indictments yet.
Tell
That's
me
fine.
that.
I just feel like I don't really. Y'all been doing a lot of stuff for something that's that flimsy. Yeah. It's not that flimsy. Two incumbents seeking re-election have been linked to an ongoing public corruption investigation, though neither have been charged. Didn't I just see a piece that popped up that somebody gotten arrested, like a towing company owner?
The police did. So two police officers who were, from my understanding, that were actually put on the case to investigate this corruption actually ended up being participants in this corruption. So there's two police officers that have been indicted or come. I don't know if they pleaded out, whatever. I don't know all of the details. I don't know where their current case is as it stands. Whether it's just they've been charged, they've been they plead guilty, or they've been convicted. I don't know that much, but I do know that it was the police, and this. It has to do with towing contracts as well as some of the members, I believe, on this that got caught up with this had to with towing stuff.
So two council members, Gabe Leland and Andre Spivey, who's spoken about Gabe and Andre before, they resigned this year amid public corruption charges, leaving two open seats in districts 4 and 7. So here are the candidates. City Council has 2 citywide at-large seats. Candidates include incumbent Janae Ayers and challengers Coleman Young II, Mary Waters, and Nicole Small. Ayers and Young were the top vote getters in the August primary. I don't give a fuck. Move. Get the fuck out of District 1. Council member James Tate Jr. is facing Crystal Larsosa. District 2. Council member Roy McAllister and Angela Calloway. They're not facing off against each other?
Yes, they are.
Man, she needs to learn how to write in parallels.
Yeah.
District 3. Council member Scott Benson is running unopposed. That sounds like a.
Let's hope he's running to jail.
But there's a write-in candidate. There's a write-in candidate. We did invite him and Mr. Benson to the show, but we got no response.
Let's hope Scott Benson is running to jail. So.
Yeah, because he's under investigation. But Adam Mundy is a write-in candidate, so you could possibly write his name in. You can write anyone's name in for that matter. But yes, he does. There's a write-in candidate that is trying to challenge in District 3. That's the district I live in. Go ahead.
Now, so since you live in that district, do we write in Adolph J. Rocky or should we put your government name?
No, I'm a write in. The person I feel is best for the job.
So hold on. So let's go back to this. So let's keep going. So Letitia Johnson and ML Eric are running for the seat formerly held by Spivey.
Right.
Council in District 5, Council President Pro Tem Mary Sheffield is running unopposed.
Yeah, she's running unopposed. I'm not even aware of any write-in candidates at all. Yes. Yeah. So really, 3 and 5 are the only ones that are running unopposed. All the other districts, 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7 are actually have 2 people running on the ballot that will be on those. Will be on the ballot for those districts if you live in those.
This city is such a fucking showboat, man. It's such a fucking basket of shit. All right, so that's District 5. District 6, Hector Santiago and Gabriela Santiago Romero will face off. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah. Hold on.
Are they together?
Yeah, there you go. Before you go further, that's husband and wife.
That's what I thought.
Are they going against each other just for shits and giggles?
Win-win.
That's husband and wife team. There's a what's a sister? There's a sister out of black, a freedman descendant elder that's running as a write-in candidate. against the Santiagos for the most part. But like many people prior to a couple of people prior to the election, it was their what do you call signatures were invalidated. That so if your signatures are invalidated, then you didn't get on the primary. If you didn't get on the primary, obviously you're not gonna make it to the general, right? So I can't remember that sister's name. I'm sorry, so sorry if you're watching this or you see this in return. Maybe we could look it up. Write-in candidate for District 6. Write-in because I met her at an event that that the pressure movement was having. Yeah, but that's basically that's the Hispanic, in
District.
Mexican town area, Southwest Detroit. Really pulling their strings and making sure that they are that one of theirs gets the seat because I think there's been a Hispanic person for at least the previous person was Hispanic. I don't know if the one before that was also, but it has a large black demographic as well.
It says Dugan supported the wife publicly at first.
Dugan, yeah.
So even that pander and just I'll support your wife. Like, man, you just full of shit, bro. It's just
is it Dugan?
No, it's Duggan, but people say Dugan sometimes as well.
Duggan, whatever.
Doogie Howser,
right?
But he ain't got no. Shut up. All right. District 7. Fred Durhall and Regina Ross are vying for the seat formerly held by Leland. Now, here's my thing. Let's go ahead and highlight who we going with for District 1 seat, kids. James Tate.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't. I only know my district, and I don't know everyone else's district, so I won't go as far. But we could talk about the at-larges because that's everything.
So, Janae Ayers, Coleman Young, Mary Waters, Nicole Small.
So, me personally, I believe Mary Waters and Nicole Small should they're at least they are the change agents, whereas Janae Ayers and Coleman Young II represents the establishment. So that's kind of like how I would go with that. We really need a whole new council. But yeah, we definitely need a new council because this previous council has signed off on a lot of Duggan stuff. So the way it basically works in city government is that, okay, Duggan is kind of like the executive office, or the executive branch of like the federal government, and the city council is the legislative branch of government, right? If we're going to give an analogy of federal to local, okay. So just like how the president's administration, they come up with a budget every year, but who has the power of purse? That is Congress. So the same goes with the city council. So Duggan can't give himself money. The city council has to go.
Theoretically, he can't.
Yeah, theoretically he can't. Not if he's doing it legally by the books. So everything has to be signed off by the city council, and they have been very friendly to the administration on a lot of different issues. So tax abatements, these bonds or what have you, that to what we've been informed that the city has illegally taken out more bonds than the property assessment, both residential and commercial, would allow him to by state law. There for sure is a lawsuit. I'm talking about that. But if that is true, then the city council would have okayed for every bond that he set to take out. He would have had to get the city council's approval to do so. They have rarely pushed back on him on anything, and have pretty much willy-nilly kind of rubber stamp everything that he wants. So if you are so here's the thing: you can't be against the mayor or feel like the mayor's not doing a good job, or he's giving the bag away, our taxpayer bag away to everyone else, be it the rich and outside city contractors or what have you. If you can't be, okay, I'm against that, and then not also be against the city council, because he wouldn't have been able to do a lot of his measures if the city council hadn't approved for him to do so. So they're just at fault as the mayor is. It's like one and the same. And so because of the the two stepping down, the at large is coming up into play. Janae Ayers is one of the 4 of the council that is under current investigation. Scott Benson is under current investigation. So who else?
Which isn't even mentioned in this article. I mean,
she wants
to be critical of.
Right.
She wants to be critical of, and I mean,
Right. So just Janae Ayers, is Scott Benson. Who else was it? It was somebody else that was anyway. We get it.
Yeah.
Right. We keep going forward. So we have a real chance of really, of the 9 seats, because there's 7 districts, 2 at large. Of the 9 seats, we could possibly elect, 4 different people. I think is James Tate under. I don't know. I don't want to talk without looking it up. So in my opinion, we if I was going to give an endorsement of anyone, would be we don't need the current people, because what we've seen on the current watch is rubber stamp. So we need to change this council out.
Everybody need to go.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's just if you're not okay with what's going on in the city, then you can't be okay with the legislative branch of it as well. So that's just my current opinion. I don't want to speak for the rest of the 3 gentlemen on this panel, but that's just my current opinion. Is that all I know is that my district, the guy is under investigation, FBI investigation. Scott Benson, he voted for. I haven't liked him since the time I moved into his district. When I found about him propose, it was in support of the community's benefits agreement that was. That right there turned me away from him, and I voted for his challenger last election cycle. Now this on top of his investigation, on top of everything else that he's represented, and really he's not. Again, I didn't see anything about Scott Benson until I saw a flyer that was sent to my mail like maybe a week ago. That's the first thing I saw, seen of anything with Scott Benson. He's doing the same thing, laying low, trying to stay out of sight for the most part, hoping that hey, he'll get
questions.
So that's the thing. Like, people got to remember here. Listen very carefully. People have to remember this. You're not always going to go vote for somebody that you need or you want. Sometimes you're going to go cast your ballot for the opposition, just specifically to vote against someone who shouldn't be there. Because although this other person might be evil and dirty, or however you think about it, you don't have a chance of unseating the current incumbent if you don't try to get them out sooner. The more they stay there, Janice Winfrey is a perfect example. The longer they stay there, the harder it is to get rid of them, because people get into that comfort zone with that candidate. They don't really know any better. They hear their name more than anybody running against them. Then that second and that third and that fourth election come around, and they just keep hitting that same checkbox. You got to get them out quick. As soon as you know they ain't the one, get them out. No jokes.
So that's just my personal opinion for District 6 is a husband and wife team. I don't know, right? Write-in candidate. That's yeah.
Well, listen, that's basically
we don't talk about police commissioners. I don't want to go that far into it.
No. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it, y'all. Like, I think the big message tonight, on this little pop-up we pulled together is, get out here, vote, tell your people, tell your friends, your family, drag them out to the polls with you, tell them it won't take but 5 minutes. I say, from my standpoint, we just talked about the 2 at large, Mary Waters, Nicole Small, get them checkboxed. Don't be going out here supporting the current stalwarts who've been messing up your city. Don't be doing that. And then also that includes that Doogie Howser character. Don't be doing that checkbox. You need to go for that other guy. At least you have a chance to get rid of something that is harming you. That's half the battle. You might not be able to get to a hospital, but at least get rid of the guy who's shooting you. You know what I mean? Get rid of that.
And what I'll say is, you can bring your phone, you can bring headphones tomorrow to the polls. Fast forward this video, save it, fast forward it. If you need to rehear this, share it, timestamp it, and let people know where to listen to what we're talking about so that you can share this vital information, because it is important to make sure that your voice is heard. It is disheartening, right? It is discouraging, but that's how they want you to feel. They want you to feel so discouraged that you stay home so they can continue to rob you blind. And so you gotta drink some coffee, try to stay awake, fight back, and do what you gotta do.
I'll take a line from one of the members from BTP, Brother Logic. He always says, government's the game and politics is how it's played. Government's the game. Government is what decides, what resources get to who, where, when, and why, right? And politics is that's the way the game is played, through elections or what have you, going to vote, so on and so forth. This money that is being spent, Detroit's annual budget is like $2 billion something annually. Right? It's up to us as the citizens. We decide ultimately at the end of the day what goes where, through the agents of these politicians, these members, right? That sit in for us. We have to lean on them. We can't, if you want to see a better Detroit, that's where it starts, is actually leaning on these candidates, representatives. And in the local government is city council, right? That instead of having a representative, U.S. representative, and a Congress and senators and all of that, it's just 7 seats and 2 at large. The 2 at large would be considered like the Senate. To give this analogy, that would be the Senate, and your representative, your local representative in the U.S. level. Would be your district person, right? So, for instance, I live in District 3, and so I got a District 3 person, and we got 2 at large. The whole city has to vote for 2 at large. So that's kind of like your Senate, right? Position, right? As far as giving this analogy of legislative government from the federal to the local. Go ahead, Darnell.
No. I was just gonna close this out. I'm good. Y'all got final words?
No, yeah, I was gonna say my final words is I'll be out there voting like everybody else tomorrow. I think we got a show tomorrow, right? So folks, stay tuned for that. We definitely gonna have a good discussion. Looking forward to that one. So definitely catch you guys on the flip side, and it'll be after we voted. So
we'll do election results. We'll have a mix of a couple different things, current affairs, on a national level. As far as in the reparations perspective, and cultural affairs, all that good stuff.
Typically, we're just gonna, and the basic idea is that we're shifting the schedule of the show a little bit, right? So us to be on a bi-weekly basis every other Tuesday. Well, we're shifting that to start on tomorrow, Tuesday, November 2nd, and then we'll be with you again every other Tuesday. We skipped last week's show in order to bring you this show right before the election. And so Tuesday will be our next show, the 2nd. Then following that will be on the 16th. And following that will be on the 30th. So mark your calendars, 7 p.m.-ish here on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and anywhere else you find your Black media and things of that nature.
Freedom media.
Gotta clear.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
Hey, once you start getting used to it, for sure.
Yeah, freedom.
I want to say, one last thing I want to say is the important thing to understand. We talked about it earlier, and I didn't get to jump in, but the Democratic Party really they institute the same type of policy as the Republicans in that the establishment supports itself. So they don't emphasize, local elections or midterm elections the same way that the Republicans don't emphasize general elections or presidential elections, right? So we need to understand that. That's why they say that in 2020 for the presidential election, the city of Detroit had a 50% turnout. 200,000 people showed up to vote. And now we're struggling to get 50,000 people. And then the second thing, you see how good my internet is right now. I don't know why other times, it's freezing, it's turning off, it's blinking, but it's good today. You know why? Because we on a different day than we normally be on. They ain't know I was going to be on today, so they couldn't scramble me. Conspiracy brother out. Yeah.
All right, you got anything to close with? You good?
Oh no, yeah, man. It's all peace, love, and reparations. I'm closing with that.
The
tinfoil kufi, bro.
The tinfoil kufi.
They watching.
All right, y'all. It's been good. Please have a safe rest of your night. And we'll catch you tomorrow. We're going to talk about the post-election results and see if 20% of Detroit really comes out and does this thing. And hopefully they do the right thing. So we're going to see. Peace.
Peace and reparations.
Peace and reparations.